you're listening to UX for You coming from downtown Kitchener. We are your hosts today. This is Rohit.
Aisha. Kavi.
So, welcome to our podcast. And today's topic is we are going to be talking about designing digital interfaces with accessibility in mind, which is something really crucial for inclusive experience. But first, our sponsor for today's episode.
So I think especially in the last 5 years, accessibility is just a term people use just like for namesake. Like the companies, the creators, when they create an app or a product, they consider accessibility as just a trophy thing that oh we do have accessibility. Our app promotes accessible features and we do count in for the accessible customers. So it is just like a namesake for like nowadays I think. So, what exactly is accessibility?
Well, it means designing digital products such as websites and apps to make them available for everyone, regardless of their physical or cognitive abilities. So, by doing so, we can promote equal access of information and services, expand our potential user base, and improve the overall user experiences. And let's not forget that designing with accessibility in mind is not just the right thing to do, it is also beneficial for our businesses.
So, like, so there is this fact that uh, accessibility is something different. So, from an organization's point of view, it would be like we have to add accessibility to our project, right? So, if accessibility is something that has to be considered and that is needed for the entire population or our customers,
So, accessibility can be helpful for everyone. It's not just for the people who have physical or cognitive disabilities.
right?
So, it can be beneficial for everyone. So, and we also have to remember that by including these people, we are expanding our user base.
So that means
So,
Okay.
so
Add-
we,
adding accessibility to the business,
Yeah.
it should not be a discussion. It is a
exactly,
mandatory
it
thing.
is a mandatory thing. Exactly.
That's actually a good point
Yeah.
because I was actually thinking about asking something, but now I'm just gonna push that out and I'm just gonna ask like is there any benefits? Like could you name some benefits of,
Like the thing is that why are we excluding them? They are also our user base. Why do we think of them as a separate entity? They are as a part of our whole as a user, right?
Yeah.
So once we just stop putting them outside the box and putting them in with our all of our user, we will be creating for everyone, you know?
I'm actually thinking about a question to ask,
Okay.
and now I'm just gonna crash that off, and I'm just gonna change it with another. Like is there any benefits that people could gain? Like people without disabilities or accessibility issues. Like, what are the things that they could,
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. People don't realize that the most of the things and tools that we are using today were originally designed for disabled people. For example, the earliest one that I can think about is typewriters. I just saw a post the other day that they were designed initially for a blind person to write letters. And also, we don't realize this, but remote controls that everyone uses every day were actually designed for disabled peoples. So in it is the need comes from the accessible people, but in the end, it's for everyone to be used.
So we're just gonna confirm that, like, or not confirm, as in, like, we're just gonna say, is it like, it's like mandatory that like it should be common for
No,
everyone.
no, it can. So the thing is that the need can come from an accessible person,
Okay.
but it can be at the end useful for everyone.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, so I see that accessibility is kind of a driver of innovation, right?
That's true.
Yeah. So basically, if we do not see like accessibility as it is just to be for the people who have disabilities, and
No,
we
yeah.
consider it for everyone,
Exactly.
that could help us create better solutions, better products, better for everyone. Probably yes.
Exactly. Like, for communication digital medium,
Mhm.
we have closed captions for videos, but we all use it.
Mhm.
It was actually made for people who have hearing issues, but we have, like, I have used it for whenever I'm in a metro or in a very loud place and I want to focus on what's happening in the video. So I open my closed captions, and so by that, I we are also benefiting from it, even though it's not aimed for our own other people's purposes.
So I guess it's just time to just dive into the world of accessibility then.
Yeah.
And I also think, type of people who face accessing these kind of digital content issues are mostly with visual impairment and people who are like, kind of blind. I mean, not blind, like, yeah, they do have visual disabilities. And with that, taking that into consideration, I feel like screen readers are something really crucial, like is what I feel, because it's like really tough for people to navigate websites and like to convert the speech into text. That's also something a bit difficult, and without proper compatibility with the screen
Yes.
readers, I guess, and the magnification tools, like
Mhm.
there are so many digital content that needs to be focused, and yeah, that which emphasizes the importance of inclusive design practice. And just as Aisha said about the closed captions before, like
Yeah.
I personally feel like that's really important, but I just don't know, I didn't know that all these days it was actually inspired from people
Exactly.
who had the accessibility
Yes.
issues, because I love to watch movies, like I don't mind watching movies, like it's not about the language, it's
Mhm.
about like the story and the script. So if I'm gonna watch a movie with in a language which I don't know, I'm gonna have subtitles over there.
Yeah.
So with that, and also there are few movies, like like muted movies which has captions like that are said loud. So
Yes.
with those kind of things, I feel accessibility is something really important.
So we have to remember this, that accessibility is, once again I'm emphasizing on this, that it's not necessarily permanent for all people who have permanent accessibility. Maybe you had an eye surgery, you can't for a
Mhm.
week watch screens, so you're using the screen readers for that duration of time. So it can be a permanent as well as a temporary thing. Therefore, it is needed for everyone.
Also, motor impairments can limit the users to make the precise mouse movements, like, and like having keyboard navigation options, like having the option to navigate through the keyboard, that is essential for the users, because like they can use the application efficiently even without being
Yes.
able to use the mouse's
Exactly.
movements. Yeah, so designing interfaces that can be fully accessed using the keyboard ensures that individuals with motor skills can interact with the digital content without relying on the complex mouse interactions.
That's correct.
Yeah, so I guess this approach enhances the usability and ensures that all users, like regardless of their physical disabilities or abilities, they all have an equal say and equal usage of the platform. and and also the cognitive impairments, so that also impacts the user's ability to perform and process the information, leading to the challenges that they face.
Yes.
So to be very clear and concise to what we are trying to say, like the bringing improvement in accessibility, considering the fact that there might be some users
Mhm.
that won't be able to use the movements and the dexterity,
Yes.
that would actually help create better ones.
Yeah, because like imagine there are so many apps that we need to use a mouse with,
Mm-hmm.
but then so many times we don't have a mouse. We can't use it. Like we have a touchpad. Like earlier today, we
Yeah.
were experiencing a similar situation. We didn't have a mouse and we wanted to access our screen, and it was very difficult to do that. So if it is enabled with a keyboard functions which are can be used by everyone, so it gets easier and convenient as well.
Even without those disabilities.
Exactly. Okay, so the easiest way to know that our web pages or apps are accessible, there is a guidelines by Web Content Accessibility Guidelines by Wide Web Consortium W3C, and they have basic technical standards which can easily be implemented by everyone. So they provide an international standards that aim to make websites, app, digital content usable for people with various disabilities, including sensory, intellectual, learning, and physical disabilities. These guidelines are not legal requirements, but they serve as a global adopted standards to remove barriers faced by individuals with disabilities when navigating digital assets, such as color contrast. We can look at like color contrast ratios while designing the web page. Is it readable by everyone? Because there are some people are colorblind, okay? And keyboard accessibility, just like what Fabi mentioned earlier, or alternative text for images, how Rohit was talking about earlier. Well, some of the websites which are great examples that adhere to the accessibility standards are Apple, which have great features for voiceovers, for screen readers, and they have a very high contrast website that makes improve their readability as well. As well, Microsoft have various products that prioritize accessibilities and have different features such as narrator for screen reading, customizable keyboard shortcuts to enhance usability for individuals with disabilities.
So, like as we have discussed before,
Mhm.
like there are assistive technologies, the screen reader, voiceover, and the closed captioning. Those
Exactly.
all count as assistive technologies. So
Yes.
basically, they are always helping the other technology, and they're assisting that.
Exactly.
Okay.
They're like they're the tools. They're
Basically,
like
the tools which could help people of
exactly
both ends.
exactly. They're the main ingredients.
Like, okay.
Yeah.
Alright, so they are like an input method for people who are not able to use the regular ones, the
Mhm.
regular technology like mouse. That
Exactly.
would
Yes.
like giving an alternative for that.
Uh huh.
Okay, so accessibility is also done with the assistive technology. Like basically, if you involve assistive technology to your plan, to your project, that is helping create much better accessible
Yes.
products.
Yes.
Okay.
So I was just thinking, like when we talk about the accessibility, like how they would have done, but I'm actually a designer, and I feel like what are the difficulties that they would have faced, because
Mm.
I personally have zero knowledge about the accessibility. So if I'm gonna design, that's definitely not gonna be good. So with that, and there are a few more things as well, and like when you consider accessibility, like like um I guess it might be like not really cost effective, but the budget is like gonna be really high. So there are too many constraints that we have to focus about as well. And if at all we have to overcome these kind of things, um, I guess probably if we have a guidance, like
Yeah.
like regular mentorship, like
Mhm.
workshops or something, so that we could like really make or create something in a better way.
Correct.
And I'm sorry. And also, yeah, I guess regular means of workshops would help really better. So yeah.
Yeah. So like the thing is that we are actually doing it. Like you said, you're not so sure that if you're will be good at applying accessibility. Most of the time, we are doing it without knowing that we are doing for the accessibility, because it's like we think that think of it as something outside. Like there is something extra that we have to do to make it accessible.
Okay, so
But like how we discussed earlier, there's so many things that we are using which are already accessible, are included in the accessibility standards.
okay, so it's not just like, it's just we need to add in extra flavor to our food. It's just like
Yes,
a natural
yes.
sugar or a
So
salt
it
in the
should
regular
come
food.
to us naturally.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, all right, guys. Thank you so much, and that's the end of today's episode. Yep, and make sure that like next time when you guys are designing, like keep accessibility in mind.
Let's look at what Shabby, an interaction designer at Google, wants to say about it in a video she did for Google's career certificate.
The term accessibility refers to the design of products, devices, services, or environments for people with disabilities. We call it A11Y in the industry, and it's something that should guide all of our work. And because I'm sure you're wondering, the 11 in the middle refers to the number of letters between the first letter in the word accessibility and the last letter. All right, let's zoom out a little. What are some of the groups of people we're considering when we think about accessibility? In academia and the tech industry, we tend to think about accessibility in 4 big categories: people with motor disabilities, people who are deaf or hard of hearing, people with cognitive disabilities like developmental, learning, or intellectual disabilities, and people with vision disabilities. It's also important to keep in mind that some people have concurrent disabilities, where, for example, a motor or cognitive disability can contribute to challenges with speech. It's easy to assume that accessibility just means solving for one specific need, like mobility, but accessibility is much broader than that. Accessibility is about making things accessible to all people, whether they have an obvious disability or not. You might be surprised to find out that more than 1 billion people around the world have a disability. That's right, 1 billion. That's out of a global population of 7.8 billion. This means 13% of people around the world have a disability. In the US, 1 in 4 adults identifies as having a disability. In other words, people with accessibility needs are a huge percentage of the population, and we're missing out on helping a lot of users if we don't build accessible products. But demographics can be misleading. There are a lot more people with a disability than the statistics account for. In the disability community and as UX designers, we focus on the social model of disability, which defines a disability as being caused by the way society is organized or how products are designed, rather than a person's ability or difference. As designers, we need to account for disabilities that are permanent, temporary, or situational in our designs. Someone with a permanent disability might have permanent loss of hearing, sight, or smell. Someone else might have a temporary impairment, like a broken arm or loss of hearing after a loud concert. We also need to consider situational challenges. Situational challenges often aren't considered legal disabilities, but we still need to solve them. An example of a situational challenge is when you're driving on a dark road late at night. Your vision is probably not as clear as it would be in the daylight, which is a situational challenge. Another example is if you're visiting a country where you don't speak the language. Your hearing is situationally limited. As UX designers, we need to keep all of these types of disabilities in mind as we design features or new products. Key takeaway: if we make the design of a product easier for people with disabilities, we also often make it a better experience for everyone else. Designing for accessibility isn't an obstacle, but a way to get our products to as many users as possible. We'll elaborate on how you can apply accessibility principles to your designs throughout the rest of the program. We'll explore the idea of equity-focused design in more detail later.
Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, bye.
Bye bye.